where I get really excited about seeing Dejounte and Trae take to the floor together. Because I mean, like Trae Young is not the first guy who's enjoyed the first couple of years in the league where it's just his team, balls in his hands. He just gets to do whatever he wants, even if it's the wrong thing. There's still going to be praise heaped on him. He's still going to put up the numbers, and then when the team wants to take that next step, maybe a guy they drafted comes in and steps up, or maybe they go and trade for a guy that can help them improve and become a more competitive, well-rounded team, and it doesn't hurt them. It makes them better players. I mean, there's like 3 examples I looked at specifically for this kind of situation. Devin Booker was the first, Kyrie Irving was the second, and Steph Curry was the third.
Well, Kyrie Irving got LeBron, but yeah.
Devin Booker, I mean, like obviously he's a Kobe disciple. So what does he want to do? He wants the ball in his hands. He wants to score. But before CP3 got there, he was kind of having to do everything, and it wasn't overly impactful in a positive sense. And the Suns were obviously a very poor team then. I mean, in the last 2 years before CP3 got there, his plus minus per 100 possessions was minus 2.65. And then the turnovers were very, very poor as well. And the points generated by assists, they were actually up at just under 1,100. That's dropped off. But what we have seen is Booker get better since CP3 has joined.
Efficiency, yeah.
He's a plus 8.5 plus minus per 100 possessions. He's only generating about 750 points from his own assists, but he doesn't need to do that because CP3 can, and shooting is what he is best at, and we've seen the best of him since CP3 has come in. That's the little adjustment he's had to make. It's not all about him anymore. He gets to play alongside a guy who complements him in a really big way, and we've seen the best of him and the best of the Suns since then. Kyrie was similar. When he first got to Cleveland, it was just his team. He was the guy scoring, handles, shooting. That was all Kyrie. First 3 seasons, he's averaging around 21 points, 6 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 38% from 3. Then LeBron comes in, and what happens? The ball's not in his hands as much, but he still gets to be Kyrie Irving. He still has his moments where he's just isolating defenders and screaming them and just destroying, attacking the rim. His handles were still off the charts. His shooting was the same, averaging more points, about the similar in terms of assists, and the shooting was around the same as well. Then is per 100 possession plus minus, it goes from -5 to plus 6.6. His points generated by assists actually went up when after LeBron came in. So it doesn't always have to be a negative thing when a guy has to change a little bit what his main strengths of his game are. If they're really a talented player and they're committed to wanting to get better and wanting the team to do better, they can sacrifice elements of their game, but that doesn't mean that they aren't still the guys. And then obviously Curry, finally, he's a similar one, but it was more so with guys who were drafted. Obviously, he was drafted a few years before the likes of Draymond and Clay. And it was kind of, the ball was always in his hands. He was kind of the main guy on the team. And then as Clay and Draymond developed into better players and they demanded more of the ball in their hands, more shots, Steph was able to do that. And guess what? He only got a hell of a lot better. Draymond was obviously getting the ball in more hands and assisting more than Steph was. He had to learn to play more off ball. And I think we can all agree that the first 3-4 years of Curry compared to what we've seen since, I think he's gotten pretty damn good. And I look at him and I look at Trae Young, and I think, especially on the offensive end, Trae Young can absolutely match what Steph Curry has been able to do in terms of putting up the numbers and getting wins for his team.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of stats there, and to put it in the picture, I want to talk about what Trae did last year too. And plus minus is tough. Sometimes I think it's a great example of team success too, because if you're going to look at Booker's plus minus, Kyrie's plus minus, and Trae's plus minus in the bad years, it's always reflective of how good's the team's, because if your team's getting blown out, you're only Luka Doncic just going to put up a plus, a positive plus minus in a loss with the amount that he does, guys like him. But what Trae did last year, if you follow Offensive Raptor, that's similar to offensive rating. It takes into account all sorts of advanced metrics, but it's a good cumulative measure of impact on the floor. For reference, Jokic led the league by a mile in Offensive Raptor and plus 8.5. And Trae Young came second, plus 6.7. You got him ahead of guys like Curry, Doncic, and Antetokounmpo. When you talk about how transformative he is offensively, when you compare him to the best players in the league, he absolutely is a force there. Number one in PER, number one in true shooting amongst guards. He had a phenomenal season last year. And I think there's no doubt in my mind when you talk about all these players across these teams, like who's going to get better, who's going to get better. And it's kind of tough to see like where does a player transform their shooting. Usually it's a lot of incremental stuff. Players will get a little bit more efficient as they perfect little things. Like we talked to coach the micro, what is it? The micro training, whatever, just little things add into your game. And that's where you see incremental improvements for players who've been in the league for a little while. But I think we can count on a massive one from Trae Young just because of the off-ball shooting we talk about with Murray.
Thanks for watching Coast to Coast on YouTube. For full episodes, check out the show wherever you get your podcasts. And for all the best hot takes, subscribe to the Coast to Coast YouTube channel below.